Howdy, folks, and welcome to Moose Podcast 232. Well, this past week was busy, and I heard from hundreds of you this week, some of you from around the globe, and I cannot thank you all enough for support, participating, communicating, all those things that make photography just so marvelous. I hope that I was able to serve you all and help in answering your questions. And if not, remember, you can click on the link, send me questions, ideas for the podcast. I loved hearing from you, and I just, again, can't thank you enough. Also want to thank my good friends at Bedford Camera, bedfords.com. Almost 900 of you from around the globe participated in the Saturday event that I did at Bedford's, thanks to Nikon and in conjunction with my dear friend, Robin Layton. Bedford's made it a great platform and place for us to come together, even though it was virtually, and support us and our photography. So I want to thank Bedford's. And remember, you head there either by phone, in person, or by the web. Use that special code, MOOSE. Save yourself some real money. And remember, they're there to help you. That's bedfordscamera.com. Well, I want to get into this week's topic, thin skin, which comes from a whole lot of things, from events that happened to myself this past week, to a really interesting email from somebody, to seeing some other responses to being a photographer out there in the web. Now, thin skin, what does that mean? Well, it means typically that something was said and we took it, for better or worse, the wrong way, and we reacted to it. And it's a very common thing for anybody who is creative. Whenever you put yourself out there, whatever the medium is, writing or music or photography, painting, whatever, and someone, for lack of better terms, criticizes what you've put out there, there's a lot of ways that you can take it. And if you're human, one of the most common ways is to react defensively, have a real thin skin. Well, I've done it. I did it again a week ago in a way, in that all those things came to my mind, even though I didn't verbalize them, when it was suggested by my client that I really didn't know what I was doing, which I took it the wrong way. Now, inside, my voice in my head was screaming, these things that way back when I would verbalize, and that never served me well. Now it's internalized, and I have to sit there and kind of let it blow through that wave and concentrate and then move forward as a productive creative. That isn't easy to do, especially if you put yourself out there, as I've been suggesting, as Rob and I suggested this past Saturday at Bedford's. If you put yourself out in the business of photography. In fact, you've got to take that thin skin and turn it around and actually make it an advantage rather than a disadvantage. And what do I mean by that? Well, first and foremost, as you've heard on this podcast many times, I advocate very strongly for you to get involved in the business of photography, in the editorial business. And make sure I explain that. Some people didn't know what I meant this past week when I said editorial. Editorial is the print medium, typically magazines, sometimes newspaper, very rarely is it books. And magazines, periodicals, the things that we have really gone back and embraced again, which, they go up and down in cycles, has this really marvelous staff of people. One of the mucky bucks, the people we care about, is the photo editor, art director, the illustrator. There's many different terms for them. I just call them photo buyer. And they're the ones I always deal with when I send in a text photo package, because they're the ones who are going to look at my photographs and say, hey, these photographs, they're worth publishing. And the words, words, sorry, anybody can fix words, but you can't fix a photograph. It's got to be solid to start with. So we bundle up our little joys, our images with our text, and we send them off. Give them a little pat in the back, a kiss in the cheek, send them down the old web to the computer of the photo buyer, thinking that, hey, we've got this made. And then the email comes back, you've been rejected. Why? That's the important question to ask. And you have to understand that when you ask that question, why were they rejected, of someone who is a qualified professional, and I want to make sure I emphasize that, you're talking to somebody who knows a photograph will first of all tell a story the magazine once told, that illustrates the article that it's supposed to illustrate, that will grab people's interest and ultimately grab their heartstrings. These people know a photograph when it works or doesn't work. And you might say, I've seen pictures that aren't so great. And you got to understand that the photo buyer can only work with what he's provided. So if you see an image that's not so great and you've got better, you've got an instant marketplace for your photographs. Get on your tuchus and get moving. So those people are going to look at your photograph and they're rejected. And if you ask the question why, and you've got to realize two things. One, you've got to have big cojones to ask that question. And two, you cannot have a thin skin or else you're not going to like what you hear. I have a friend of mine who calls me a wordsmith, in that I try to pick my words carefully, especially when they involve someone's feelings. And that comes from my own personal experience dealing with photo buyers and my own case of thin skin when I started out. The words they use often are, well, just not the best chosen ones when it comes to protecting your feeling. They're incredibly busy. I'm not trying to make excuses, but having to understand why they make the comments they make is one, they are incredibly busy. And so if they actually take the time to answer your question, why was your image rejected, you need to take that as a real right off the bat signal that they think you're worthy of not only their time, but your photography shows great potential. So I know it's really like a backhanded compliment, but if you ask why and they respond, you have to understand that in itself just elevated you as a photographer. They think that not only your photography has potential, but you as well. And so, that's when you have thin skin, that's hard to get past. And then, they care to respond. You got to remember that they've got X amount of time to do it. So brevity is important, where every word counts for 10, and sometimes those words seem like they're hurtful. They're a target right towards you as a being, and that's not the case. At the same time, still not trying to make excuses for them, but you have to understand this as you grow that thicker skin, for lack of better terms, that they have gone down this road with many others. You're not the first. You're not going to be the last. And there's absolutely no way around it. At some point, they got zapped by a photographer in this process. And they also have to deal with thin skin and thick skin. And so some of the things they say are because of past experiences, partly to put up a wall to protect themselves for if you happen to come back at them. There's a lot of things that go into that. It's all being human. And it's all called being, getting past that thin skin. These people are literally, when you ask a question, why, they're doing you a favor, okay? They're doing you a huge favor. And to take that favor, and because you don't like the way it's delivered, go ripping back at them, you have no idea how incredibly stupid you look, to put it bluntly. You have just shot yourself in the foot. Not only have you missed the opportunity, okay, to learn a very important lesson, whatever they had to share with you, not only have you alienated a potential new friend or alienated an old friend, but you have basically shut the door to that as a means of selling your photographs, getting your story out, sharing with a greater audience, all because of that thin skin. It goes with the territory, and I'm here to tell you, the first time you deal with it, you're going to regret it, and you'll keep regretting it until you learn that lesson, that you just got to take a deep breath and understand that it's a part of the process of being creative and putting what could be your most precious child out there for people to comment on. It is the way it works. Is there a way to get around it? That's I searched for that answer for quite a while, and for myself, and this is before the days of the web, and I don't think the web is a way to get through it. I realize that a lot of people like to put their photographs out there and have other people comment, which you then are dealing with what? Other people with their own priorities, their own pluses and minuses, their own personal tastes, and again, bluntly, their own ignorances to tell you about your own photograph, when really the best judge is going to be you, because you know what went into that photograph. You know what you're trying to say. The whole process of being a visual storyteller is defining how you tell a story with f-stops and light and with focal lengths and colors and all those things and so much more. And if there was a cookie cutter boilerplate methodology to this whole thing, then yeah, maybe throwing out your photograph to the masses to see what they say when we all had a standard to go by might be the way to go. But you and I both know that is not the case. Each and every one of us is so special. The way we see the world is so unique, and the way our hearts beat to put that all together in a photograph makes every photograph just this cherished moment that we're trying to share, a memory that we thought was special. We want to bring other people into that moment. As long as we are all that unique, then you have to understand you've got to find the professional to help you. It could be, if you, God forbid, and I hope that's never the case, you have some serious illness, are you going to throw your symptoms on the web and wait for everybody to give you an idea how to cure it? Or are you going to go find that specialist who can say, okay, you've got this, and symptom. This is what was going to make it better. You're going to go to what? That specialist. And in photography, I'm sorry, there's only one really qualified specialist. That's the photo buyer. And then if you come down many tiers, you've got folks like myself who've been in that industry for 40 years, who've kind of gleaned some of their wisdom, and some of it's soaked up because Lordy knows I don't have it all, or else I'd have one hell of a lot more sales. Then you've got the wannabes who think that they have, after one or two publication, they've got it all mastered. Speaking as one of those wannabes way back when, it doesn't work that way. You've got to develop a means to searching out the answer you need for your photography and getting past that thin skin. You just can't take that best friend who has all that knowledge, an expert, and say, help me, and then say, no, you're wrong. You've got to develop a way to take that in so that greatness and whatever gift they're giving you, it doesn't get passed on to somebody else. It's up to you to make that difference. And that's the challenge of being a creative, a photographer, is that thin skin. So keep in mind every time you go out and shoot, the sun will come up tomorrow no matter what happens. And if you learn from today's lessons, tomorrow will be just a little bit better. You folks have a great week. You take care out there, and remember to make every click your story.